Good day, everyone. For today's discussion, we're going to delve in what reader response is all about as an approach to literary criticism or as an approach in analyzing a certain literary work. To begin with, reader response criticism in modern academics is another literary theory or literary criticism focusing on the audience's or reader's experience of any literary work. This theory or this approach is gained popularity because of its constructive ideology or contrastive ideology. So bakit kaya ganon? Because if we compared it to traditional theories, their focus are primarily on the form, diba? On the content, the context, and even the style of the literary work. So reader response criticism is different from that. So let's see why reader response criticism is different among other approaches in analyzing a certain literary work. Let's first define what is reader response criticism. When we say reader response criticism, it is an approach to literary criticism and analysis that focuses on how readers are actively engaged in the creation of meaning in a text. In reading response criticism, the act of reading is like a dialogue between the reader and the text that has meaning only when the two, reader and the text, are joined in conversation. This criticism makes literary works more like a performance art where the reader's act of reading and then interpreting the text is the performance. Therefore, in reading response criticism, there should always have a building connections between the reader and the text they read. Another definition is the key idea of reader response criticism is that readers create meaning rather than find it in a text. We all know that every text in literary work has meaning, so it requires analytical and critical thinking skills. Though all of the approaches in literary criticism requires analytical and critical thinking, however, in reader response criticism requires high level of critical thinking skills because this is all about readers' interpretation of the texts. Its main focus is on the creation or its main focus is on the reaction and interpretation of the reader based on his personal experiences, based on his personal views and knowledge about the texts. This will allow theories to explain why people can have different responses to and interpretations of the same texts. That would be the existing problem using this approach in literary criticism kasi nakadepende sa reader kung paano niya ininterpret ang isang literary work. So may chances na magkaiba ang bawat interpretation ng iba't ibang nagbabasa ng literary work. So later on, we're going to discuss about that. Now for you to have a better understanding about reader response criticism, let's have this formula. Text plus reader is equals to meaning. Therefore, there's nothing to do about the form, the content, the style, and even how author gives personal meaning of the text, as what I have said a while ago, because reader's interpretation is what matters. Kahit pa magkaiba ng interpretation ang reader at ng mismong author ng literary work, it does not matter anymore. What matters is that reader's interpretation. So in reading response criticism, there is an advantage and disadvantage of using this approach in literary criticism, and that is the advantage is the reader will look beyond its words and search for the deeper meaning as each reader interprets differently. Groups of readers from connections and understandings based on each other's perspective, meaning every reader has different interpretations and understanding of what the text says depending on their views and experiences. So hindi lahat ng reader is the same ng interpretation, because may iba-iba tayong experiences na pwede natin i-correlate sa text na nabasa natin. At ito din ang isang disadvantages, because this theory is too subjective, because it focuses on the reader's interpretation. Therefore, reader's biases and ignores the actual meaning of the text if there is one. Every reader has level of knowledge and intellectual capabilities on interpreting some literary work. Therefore, may pagkakaiba ng mga interpretations kasi nakadepende sa knowledge ng isang reader yan. So ang bottom line here is reader response theory stresses on the reader's role in constructing and interpreting the meaning of a text. So moreover, the theory does not separate the reader's response, the reader's belief, and the reader's understanding from the texts. So Ms. Pelayo will continue the discussion about the example of reader response criticism and questions that should be considered in analyzing literary works using this approach.
So what is an example of reader response criticism? A specific example can be a reader who experienced communism in Fidel Castro's Cuba, who interact with George Orwell's 1984 in a different way than one who has never experienced what it is like to live under totalitarian rule. The reader who has experienced it might view the way Winston Smith succumbs at the end of the novel as cowardly, and this could affect the universal messages they take away from the reading. The structure of a reader response essay could be: how well does the text address things that you personally care about and consider important to the world? How does it address things that are important to your family, your community, your ethnic group, the people of your economic or social class or background, or your faith tradition? What can you praise about the text? And what problems did you have with it? Or how well did you enjoy the text as an entertainment? That's all. Thank you.
So those are the questions that we should consider in literary criticism using this approach. So that concludes our discussion for today. Thank you for listening.